If you've ever had a kid who just got angry and stormed out of your classroom, if you've ever had a young person who just won't be engaged or seems to ignore simple instructions, these techniques and these strategies will work for you.
Over the last 3 years, we've used Ramapo Training for all of our staff. We mandated it. Immediately, we saw a lot of really good results. We saw people using the language. We saw people talking to their supervisors about areas where they realized that they weren't doing certain things that they could have been paying more attention to. We saw people being a little bit more excited in a different way about the work. So immediately we were like, this is it.
What are the difficult behaviors that you deal with on a daily basis? Sometimes I think it's helpful to kind of envision a young person that you've worked with that's sometimes very frustrating. You're not quite sure how to address some of their issues, and think about what that behavior looks like.
During counseling sessions, sometimes the kids are easily distracted and not involved.
Using profanity, inappropriate words. The N-word flies like it's hello, I mean, it's just very inappropriate language.
I think that it is at the heart of why kids don't learn effectively very often, why they don't engage in after-school activities, why they can't meet their goals, is because sometimes we get so caught up in the behavior that they're exhibiting that we can't get past it.
You don't have to have good instincts to work with kids. You have to have good skills. These are things that you can learn how to be an effective behavior manager. You can learn skills that let you work with a greater range of young people. And that's very empowering.
There are 5 core strands to what is taught and who one needs to be in order to manage behavior effectively and therapeutically.
What I'm going to distribute right now is called our Back Pocket Guide, and that's a literal translation.
Everything you need to know is in that pocket guide. If you review that pocket guide, you'll see yourself in there. You'll reinforce a lot of the good things you're already doing because you'll just say, oh yeah, I'm doing this, I'm doing that.
Ramapo Training gives common language. When someone comes in, they understand that, this is a staff that is on the same page, literally and figuratively. The students pick up on that. There's a consistency in the message that they're receiving. And anybody who's worked with kids who are extremely challenging immediately recognizes in the materials that there is something of great value behind the words. And there's care and meaning and dedication.
We've done a lot of work within the empowerment schools and charter schools throughout the city. We also do individual coaching, where the trainer will go into the classroom of individual teachers and observe and then debrief with that teacher afterward to give feedback.
Can I ask you to do something for me? Spread your arms out like this.
We really believe in experiential education. We believe in experiential learning, which means that in order to really understand what you're doing, you need to be a part of it.
It's really important for people to feel like they're not alone in managing behavior. We're in a really good time right now in the world of education in that inclusion is becoming the norm, which is something that Ramapo has always believed in, but it wasn't always the norm. It's really very recently, especially in New York City, that schools and youth work agencies have been increasingly pressured to include a broader range of children in their programs. Often that inclusion means that the staff need more training because we're talking about a workforce that wasn't trained necessarily for inclusion, even though that is now the expectation.
The beauty of our training is in its simplicity. We give so many tools to people, but they're things that they say, oh yeah, I've used that before, that does work.
The Ramapo philosophy really shifts that paradigm away from just thinking about what your lesson plans are for the day and how children might be ruining it because of their behavior, and really just taking a step back and thinking about what are we not doing to be able to reach that child and what can we do.
My favorite story of that, and the thing I tell those teachers, is the day I had to break up my first fight. So I finally got my radio. I'm the one on radio. Feeling pretty good about that. I get called because there's a fight in the cafeteria, and I will never forget this because I'm running up there and I'm grabbing some random adults to come with me, and one of them asked me what I'm going to do, and I said, I have absolutely no idea, but no one's going to know. And I still feel like that half the time. I knew I was supposed to have the body language. This is the I'm in charge body language. I got that. So I think a lot of that is giving people feedback on what you see. Greeting kids in the morning. Simplest and easiest thing you can put into a school community is someone who says hello to every kid.
But thank you.
What did I do?
I personalized it. What else did I do?
You sat down.
I sat down, got on her level. Eye contact.
Hi, how are you? Good to see you. You did a little of that. Happy to have you. That was your Pied Piper, right? And give them the activity sheet. Oh, I really need you to sit down and get started.
All classrooms, all environments are made up of four things. You got the physical space in which you work, you've got the people who are in it, you've got the materials you're using, and you've got the routines. That is your point of influence. You cannot control the kid, or what happened to them last year, or what happened to them before. This is what you can manipulate to influence their behavior.
We'd have the students lining up, make sure there's space by the door when they're coming in. The student who is oppositional defiant would either be in the front, and perhaps you could make them a leader, or maybe right in the line, and we have a visual.
We talked about the positioning of the student and the proximity to the adult.
Did you know that developmentally school-age kids can't hold 3 directions in their head at the same time? So when you say, stand up, push in your chair, and go line up at the door, you're essentially giving them a multiple choice direction. There's a statistic that says 75% of kids who have severe behavioral issues or show behavioral problems also have a learning disability or a processing disorder. So there is a direct link between how kids behave and how much they're understanding. So thinking about that and looking at how we're sending messages to them and recognizing that if they're not getting it, if they're not processing it, then they're going to do something else. They're going to end up showing some of these negative behaviors. So the way that we can cut down on that is to make sure we're sending our messages clearly. What is the single most important thing that saying no needs to revolve around? If there's going to be one thing that's non-negotiable with a kid, you want to make sure that it revolves around this one thing. Safety, absolutely.
I'm here today to share with you our new training module, which is really exciting for me, which is about specifically managing children on the autism spectrum and what it means to work differently with this group than to run a group of young people with special needs in general.
Our training has now expanded to include a supplemental curriculum for kids who are diagnosed on the autistic spectrum, and more agencies, schools, and after-school programs have a need for that and access us as one of the leading people, one of the leading organizations in being able to provide them with the specifics on how to deal with kids with autism, both in a mainstream environment where they are being included and in environments where they are amongst other kids with special needs.
Welcome to Supervising Inexperienced Staff. I have to tell you, I love doing this training. And the reason I love doing this training is because, I don't know about you, but the reason I ended up in my job was because I was good with kids. And then suddenly none of the headaches of my job were about kids at all anymore. They were not about what I was trained for, they were not about what I knew, they were now about things that had to do with management and working with adults. Thank you.
I think I just hope that everyone that attends the training comes out with at least one thing that they're going to try that's different from when they walked in. One strategy that they hadn't considered before, or that they may have tried before but discarded because they didn't think it was that effective.
The bottom line is that, even though we've looked at other things to support them as well, Ramapo, continues to be a staple for us. and that, you know, that's not going to go away.